So I want to share this with you, and it's in regards to what's mentioned here: faster, more transparent, and more reliable cross-border payments give a big lift to small business growth plans. Well, how about this? Small to medium, and that's one of the things that you're going to hear in regards to this segment that we have for you tonight in regards to Ripple's XRP. Pega Sultani, again, I could be pronouncing that wrong, explains how blockchain tech can transform the payment landscape and fuel growth opportunities for SMEs with payments. Now, the key thing here is this is new, and I'd like to see some new things posted in regards to Ripple. All right, so I'm going to take you over to this, and the article was new from Ripple, but the actual interview is from the 16th. We're going to get to some of the key areas of this. But before we start things off, like it says, small to medium-sized enterprises. That's the bottom line. SMEs help economies around or across the world go around, I should say. But despite their significant contributions to global commerce, local SMEs have long been underserved by traditional financial institutions when it comes to their own cross-border payments and international expansion goals. So what's this all about, basically? Well, again, we're going to show you this interview. And give me a second to pull it up. All right. Here we go. Please smash that like. And if anything, we'll play about roughly, I don't know, maybe about 6 to 7 minutes of this. Pretty good. Here we go.
I'm Austin Prey, senior reporter here at Payments. Joining me today is Pega Sultani, the head of payment products at enterprise crypto company Ripple. Thanks for joining us today, Pega.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And today we're talking about an exciting topic, crypto payments for small and medium-sized enterprises. But before we dig into that, do you mind just introducing maybe yourself and your role at Ripple?
Yeah, sure. I'm Pega Sultani. I'm the head of payments product at Ripple, where I work on our payment solution to deliver cross-border payments for our customers around the world.
Awesome, which is very relevant because that's kind of what we're talking about today. Can you share a little bit about why SMEs or small and medium-sized enterprises are an important segment when it comes to cross-border payments?
So SMEs are crucial for the world economy. They ensure a ton of competition and drive innovation. Most of the companies in the world are actually SMEs. They're also a massive part of cross-border payments. So they constitute over $17 trillion of cross-border payments every year. And they're growing much faster than other segments. And a lot of that is spurred by the digital economy and their ability to tap into different markets for new customers. At the same time, they remain very underserved. So while they're big in totality and the aggregate volume is really big, by definition, each one of them is quite small. So when the incumbents are thinking of serving them, the perceived value that they get from these companies is less than what it costs them to serve them.
Got it. Yeah. And so just building off of that point, SMEs, they tend to lose business to larger companies who have those more established global payment rails. They have correspondent banking relationships. And, particularly as it relates to the pursuit of emerging market opportunities, what are some of the primary reasons that SMEs should be considering crypto payments to kind of, to help close that gap with these bigger companies?
SMEs really feel the pain of correspondent banking much more acutely versus larger companies. They have a lot less resources, and because they're smaller, they have worse service, worse pricing relative to the bigger competitors. And if something goes wrong in their business for their payments, like the payment gets lost, it doesn't arrive, they're really caught at a loss. Crypto removes the friction with correspondent banking, which we really need in a world without a global banking system. And these frictions range from settlement times to pricing to transparency, showing up in ways where it can take up to 5 days to settle a payment. And you have hidden fees. So if I'm a SME and I think I'm sending you a certain amount, you're actually receiving something different because various middlemen have deducted fees along the way. By removing intermediaries using blockchain solutions, you can really reduce the delays and provide upfront visibility into all the fees. So using a solution like Ripple Payments, you don't have any surprises. There's also a lot of operational benefits that come with blockchain because the technology is transparent, traceable, auditable, and you have clear records at every stage. So you get complete visibility into the cost, the status, and the timing all along the payment journey.
Awesome. Yeah. And, maybe building off of some of those points you mentioned, what benefits, what kind of convincing value adds are there to, for a SME looking for, a new cross-border solution? What would convince them to use a platform like Ripple rather than, a retail bank or an acquiring bank or, another financial platform that holds their merchant account and is familiar with their operation?
By cutting out the middleman, blockchain-powered solution increase speed and reduce costs. So Ripple Payments specifically is a global network with financial institutions like banks and payment providers or those with licenses to move money around the world, as well as corporations as customers. And this product enables those customers to send payments faster, cheaper, and more efficiently than otherwise, which in turn enhances their business performance. To go a little bit deeper, that means that with Ripple, settlement is in seconds with near zero failure rates. The solution is always available 24/7, 365, regardless of weekend cutoff times or holidays. And the fees are up to 90% less than status quo systems. So to date, we've done 20 million transactions and $30 billion in volume. So it's been a real proven service for these customers. And there is also additional operational benefits. So in the traditional banking or correspondent banking, these companies have to forecast how much money they need, when they need it, where they need it. They need to plan for weekends, holidays. And if they get any of that wrong, it's costly and it results in a really bad customer experience for their customer, ultimately translating to lost revenue. With Ripple, on the other hand, you have instant settlement, no need to forecast or park capital over weekends. So you're not waiting around for a wire to arrive 3 to 5 days. You don't need intensive resource requirements or manual overhead, and you're not paying up to 6% of your margin in costs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, can you talk about some of the, data compliance and security standards that, maybe the Ripple Payments cross-border solution can provide?
So in payments, like security, compliance, data is absolutely critical. These are people's money, so it needs to be handled with really, really high care. In today's payment world, the standards are really different around the world. So if you're using the SWIFT system or TIPS in Europe or Fed in US, you follow a different protocol. In addition, the data that you can transfer, the richness of that data is really limited. So what you get is a bunch of closed networks that don't speak to each other and unstructured data that's opaque. So there's a lot of manual intervention and ultimately a really poor payment experience. With ISO 20022, these problems will be solved. So ISO 20022 is a global standard for financial information exchange. This enables interoperability between different systems, straight-through processing of payments, and rich data transfer. And it'll also foster competition because it's open and flexible. At Ripple, we've been aligned with ISO 20022 from day one. We've always recognized that this is the direction of payments and it'll be better for everyone. And we were really a first mover on that front. We've also joined the standard body to help contribute to how payments will shape in the future. Going back to your point around security, Ripple is also really committed to the highest standards in safety, privacy, and security. And a testament to this is that we have our SOC 2 certification. For those not very familiar with SOC 2 reports give really valuable information about an organization's security capabilities, so each of their customers and users can have confidence in that service, which means that anyone using Ripple's solution knows that we adhere to the most modern security and privacy standards. And in line with that, we've also received our SOC 2 Type 2 report. So not only do we have the policies and processes in place around various criteria related to security, availability, and the integrity of the system, but also that we've been doing so consistently for a period of time.
All right, I'm going to pause it there for just a brief moment. I love what she mentioned in regards to ISO 222. It's been a while since you heard any specific ones that we talk about a lot just come out and say ISO 222. Boom, you heard it right there. Ripple, ISO 222. So again, it absolutely, you know, I hate to use this term, but behooves me as well when I hear people like, oh, you know what? There's not a lot going on with Ripple XRP. I'm not willing to wait. I mean, really? Because here's the thing. If you compare some great innovative technologies of the past, you know, and where they went from, let's face it, during the times of doubt compared to like, you know, obviously where they would blossom. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this, with like Microsoft and so on. Hear me out on this. You know, there was a time period where so many people were speculative on Microsoft and the technologies, or, you know, Apple and so on. Again, like, why would I sell my Ripple XRP at these prices where, you know, I never given it a full chance, or not just me, but a lot of other people haven't given it a full chance to actually see, again, utility in motion. You're only seeing a little bit of utility in motion. You know, the nation of Palau, for instance, you know, that's like, they're basically, their country is a test pilot. Forget the whole concept of test pilots and so on. If you understand the concept of where it's going and so on, have you given it a full opportunity, a chance to go where it needs to go? No. You know, it's like we have to see this be fully implemented. What she referenced in regards to ISO 222, you know, again, guys, we're not in full implementation yet. November 2025 is, you know, a little over 2 years away. So my thing is, I don't want to just see full implementation. I want to see full utility in motion. And that's where you get all that supply and demand and, you know, crazy market caps and so on. And as people would say, you know, that generational wealth. You got to give it a chance to complete the course of where it's going. She breaks it down pretty well. I think this is a great interview. And if anything, I do see right here that there's only about, I think about under 6 minutes left. We're going to play the rest of this because, you know what, she's going to get into the financing and liquidity management side of things, and then round it off with crypto helping SMEs. Because, you know, we always talk about, you know, the big financial players, the big banks, you know, the central banks of the world using Ripple. But again, what about the smaller ones, the smaller businesses, the medium-sized businesses and so on? You don't see a lot of talk about this. So again, she is head of payments products from Ripple. She's being interviewed by Austin Prey, who's a senior reporter from Payments, which is PYMNTS.com. And this is a really good interview. So hopefully you guys appreciate this. We're going to play a little bit more in regards to this. Please smash that like, and let's get back into it. Here we go.
Awesome. Yeah. And, you know, it's it's never cheap to expand to a new market. Can you talk a little bit about financing and liquidity management, particularly as it relates to using crypto? How does crypto help small and medium-sized businesses expand to these new geographies, which typically involves things like foreign exchange costs, liquidity requirements, as well as other fees?
Yeah, it's never cheap. Agree with that. So financing needs is another area where SMEs are really underserved. The IFC, or International Finance Corporation, says that there's 40% of SMEs that have unmet financing needs. And it amounts to a huge amount, over $5 trillion of a gap in financing needs. And in the context of cross-border payments, to grow, there's a lot of upfront capital that's required. And that shows up in the form of pre-funded accounts that are outside the home country of that company. Also, that money may be held in a currency that's not the currency of that SME. So that exposes them to additional FX rate. Let's assume they even have the capital. They still need expertise and a strong treasury team to manage that effectively. So it's a really hard process. And if you layer in on top of that, there's certain geographies that are really hard and even more costly. And those would be countries where there's stringent capital controls or high FX costs. So it's a real barrier to growth. Blockchain eliminates these pain points by removing the need to have high upfront capital to grow. So SMEs or businesses can expand into new markets. They have a much lower burden of cash flow planning and management and tend to get better commercial terms.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, going back to that idea of, it's never cheap to expand into a new market. It's also, just access to capital is a primary concern for a lot of small and medium businesses, particularly in, today's environment where the cost of capital is going up, credit is tight. How does blockchain help alleviate, some of these working capital needs, and as well as, some of the bottlenecks in just access to working capital for small and medium-sized businesses?
The benefits that crypto and blockchain solutions provide ultimately reduce the working capital need. A lot of times for these companies, the working capital pain points come from a timing mismatch between when you're receiving money and when you have to pay it out. And for small companies, just a few days makes a huge difference. So for example, let's say I owe my supplier some money that's due on Monday, and that Monday happens to be a holiday in my country, a bank holiday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I can't send the payment. I need to buffer another 2 to 3 days for clearing a Swift wire. So potentially I'm out that cash a full week before the invoice that's actually due. That week for small companies is huge. Using a blockchain solution like Ripple Payments, the settlement is instant without the need for pre-funding, and you don't have to worry about holidays. It's always there. So that you automatically, in that example, save 7 days of working capital, and then sometimes it can be longer. In addition, at Ripple, we offer flexible repayment terms and have pre-negotiated FX rates and payout fees, and that further supports SMEs with their cash flow needs.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, maybe moving a little bit beyond cross-border payments, where do you see some of the, most attractive opportunities for crypto to help small and medium-sized businesses?
The goal of crypto ultimately is to level the playing field in financial services by making sure everyone has better access, more optionality, and better pricing, inclusive, and actually especially for those that are underserved. Cross-border payments is somewhere where we've seen a lot of momentum and penetration with SMEs, but there's other use cases that range from treasury management, which means that SMEs can put their money in a crypto-powered solution and get a yield higher than they would at a savings account, to the ability to accept crypto as a form of payment, which means that you can grow your revenue by serving more customers, especially where there are underbanked consumers as well. And looking out into the future, the possibilities are really endless. There's promising solutions around real world asset tokenization, which can smooth out supply chains and help with liquidity management, and as well as lending, where crypto pools can be used to borrow at a rate than you would with a traditional lender.
Yeah, I think that's, just a very good point to end on. Thank you so much for your time today. It was really a pleasure to discuss and learned a lot.
Thank you for having me.
All right, before we wrap things up in regards to our Ripple segment, I want to jump into this next part that comes from link two or link to. I can't pronounce it right. So this is good because you know what? I think for some people, they just, for whatever reason, want to oversimplify the concept of Ripple's XRP. At the end of the day, I mean, they do help a lot of businesses, not just the banks of the world, be able to, not have to wait. Was it 5 to 7 days? In regards to making a payment, you don't realize how big that is. The saying goes, "Time is money." So, like it's shared right here in 2023, banks still take days for wire transfers, while trillions lie dormant. Imagine unlocking that capital with Ripple's on-demand liquidity. Yeah, the ODL. Dive into the potential of our portfolio company here. Choose to do so, but it's the message that is being portrayed here. Also, part of this interview is John Deaton, and he breaks it down so well, as he always does, as John Deaton has always done. So, this is Nick Burafato. He's the director of member sales over at Linkto. Says your access to private investment. This is a very good interview. This is from August 19th. It's only 2 minutes, but this really, in my opinion, does a good job of rounding things off as far as our Ripple XRP coverage. Let's come back to reality, guys. Understand the simplicity of why Ripple's XRP is solving a problem that's existed for, let's face it, guys, many years. We are breaking out of the old technology that's existed since the early 1970s, for crying out loud. We're in 2023. We need to break out of that old technology, right? So it's innovation is the bottom line. Don't oversimplify the whole concept of what we're doing here with Ripple's XRP. And if anything, listen to this. Smash that like, only 2 minutes on this particular one, and then we'll jump into our next segment here in a bit. Here we go.
There's a huge incentive for these financial institutions to get into gear and use ODL, because they'll be able to take all those pre-funded accounts, take all that dormant capital, as Ripple has explained over the years, and they've used numbers between 10 trillion and $27 trillion in dormant capital that financial institutions can bring home. And that means a lot to these financial institutions. So for anyone that didn't know the Nostro piece of the puzzle to this thing, this is bigger than you may have even imagined. And these banks really want to bring that money back home. So I just want to make that point, because when I speak to people every day, they have no idea that's one of the big benefits of using ODL.
Let me add this. When those banks bring home all that money, whatever trillion or billions that you're talking about, and they have that much more liquidity, what do they do with it? They give more loans. They give more loans to small businesses. They give more loans to individuals because they have the capital, and that improves, the economy outright. So it's almost tragic that it's 2023 pushing 2024 and we're still operating. I would encourage any of the new people to the community to do a wire transfer today. It still takes 5 days for me to do a wire transfer from one account to another sometimes. I did a domestic wire transfer to a client on a settlement that came in, and it was domestic, and it took 4 business days for it to end up in her account, right? So that's kind of obscene when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine the irony for us, John, that our members wire us funds to invest in a company that can have settlement in 10 seconds or less.
There you go. That's the bottom line. Imagine it. And it's going on day by day. You always hear about some of the partners that Ripple has and so on. Yeah, they have to do just that. They have to invest in the old way of doing things when they're investing basically in a company that is solving things, which you can, have everything cleared in a matter of seconds. A matter of seconds. Got to wait 5 days or more. Absolutely absurd. I would agree with them.